So a couple days ago, I was rebuked by an older gentleman, an avid churchgoer, and he basically told me that I am not to quote this passage without like a 5 minute explanation after it. Let me just read it to you. This is apparently the forbidden passage that we are not able to quote or read. Okay? You have heard it said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go into hell. Now he proceeded to explain to me that I have to explain this, and I can't just say that verse, and I have to explain this, and that was wrong of me to just quote this. But what's interesting is that Jesus doesn't give a 5 minute explanation after he says it. No, he just says it. He says, "Listen, guys, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out." End of story. He doesn't go into a 5 minute long explanation of, well, it really just means this and that. But apparently, if we are to tell people this, we have to go into a long explanation. And this is the trap that they'll lay for you. Okay? It'll go something similar to this. They'll look at you and say, "Well, so have you ever sinned?" And if you're not wise enough, you'll fall into their trap and say, well, yeah. I mean, we've all sinned, of course. And then he'll look you up and down and look at your arm and then look at your other arm and look at your eyes and say, "Well, you clearly have both of your arms and you clearly have both of your eyes, so you're a liar, you're a hypocrite." These are the games that they try to play because they don't have understanding. So when Jesus said this, he didn't say it as a form of punishment. Like for example, you sin and you look at a woman with lustful intent and you say, "Oh man, I've totally messed up. Well, there goes my arm." And you cut it off. That's not what this passage is saying. So it's not to say that if you've sinned, then you should have cut off your hand. How on earth do people miss this? The point that Jesus is trying to make, and the point that they can't grasp and they don't want to see, is that Jesus was giving an ultimatum. And this ultimatum applies to Christians and to everybody. You can choose sin or you can choose Jesus. You have to pick. You can't have both. Jesus is clearly saying that what he's saying here is that it's an ultimatum. Okay? You have to be willing to go to whatever extent to kick sin out of your life, even to the point of cutting off your own arm. Now, if you're wise, you would not go to that extent. You would rather kick the sin out of your life. But either way, he's giving a clear ultimatum that if we continue in sin, we'll be thrown into hell. So you need to do whatever you need to do to get rid of that sin. And this is something that people just cannot accept. So, like I said, I was rebuked on this and told that you can't just preach that. You can't just tell people that they need to cut off their arm if they sin. But you know what? Jesus did it. And when's the last time you've heard this preached in a pulpit? When's the last time you've heard a pastor talk about this verse? And why don't Christians talk about this verse without having a 5 minute explanation explaining away all the words of Jesus and taking all the power out of it? Why? May God help us all.